This time I take Royal Enfield Classic 350 out for a spin. Now the Classic 350 arrived in 2022 and of course has an engine of 349cc running a bore and stroke of 72 by 85.8. In principle it's a replacement for the old-fashioned 350 Bullet that I used to own, except now it's unit construction and with a single overhead cam. Compression ratio is 9.5 to 1 and the engine makes a relatively modest 20.2 horsepower at 6,100 RPM. There's 27 Nm of torque at 4,000 RPM incidentally. At the top end the engine runs just 2 valves, which probably explains the modest performance. The machine of course however is wonderfully flexible and extremely user friendly. So despite that modest power output, you don't have to work the 5-speed transmission too hard to make decent progress. First impressions of the clean unit construction engine and all-round layup of the machine is very pleasing with a real classic look. And the clocks and general layout is very familiar to anybody like me that used to own an old Bullet. But despite the compact dimensions of that engine, the bike is still reasonably tall at 805mm for its seat height. A seat which I have to say is extremely comfortable. Your foot position is quite far forward, just as it was on the old Bullet. So this is a bike with very traditional ergonomics. The switchgear is thoroughly modern, with that unusual red switch on the right, both switching the starter motor over and switching the engine off at the same time, all in one switch. But that upturned heart-shaped clock layout is very familiar to anybody with an older Bullet. Although in this case of course it's a lot more electronic, there being a little LCD display down just underneath the speedometer. The fuel tank feels quite wide, but actually only holds about 13 litres. Fortunately the bike is pretty frugal and can usually average around 75 to the gallon. That's Imperial of course. The bars are a reasonably comfortable height and feel about the same as my old BSA. So if it sounds like I'm going to have a 50s vibe from this bike, you'd be quite correct. The switchgear, apart from that unusual starter cum kill switch, are all pretty much standard and very much like you would find on pretty much any modern day machine. And their overall quality does appear pretty good. As I blast off on the roundabout into the flow of traffic, one thing that's immediately apparent is just how excellently well set up the gearbox is on this little bike. Many machines today either have a very low first gear or a stupidly high first gear, perhaps more commonly for road bikes, but to me this felt just about right for the all-round performance characteristics of the engine. And slicking up for the gears, I found the transmission to be wonderfully light, although with enough response so you can actually feel the gears going in, and the clutch very light and very easy to feel. It gave a good feel, it being a cable clutch. I do like cable clutches I have to say. Never been a big fan of a lot of hydraulic clutches, I do think they lack feel. This one though is very good. Now when I did this test ride I'd early in the day taken out the new BSA Bantam, and it was amazing just how different these machines felt. The Royal Enfield feels more traditional, but it also feels more refined at the same time. The engine is very smooth with very little vibration unless you really hammer it. But then it also lacks the go of the BSA, and you definitely do notice its lack of horses on dual carriageways and motorways. Not to say it can't keep up, the motor can cope perfectly well with 65 or 70 miles an hour, but it does feel like it's been pushed on a little bit. In that way it's very much like a traditional 350. It's nice and flexible and very easy and user friendly. The Bantam by comparison feels more like an enlarged 125. That's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just that it feels different. Now my last Royal Enfield had been one of the 410 Himalayans, and these machines really are very different. The new engine, the 350, does feel smoother and a little bit more refined perhaps, but it's certainly not as powerful and it doesn't have the mid-range punch, but then to be fair it is lacking a few cc's after all. And overall, with its very traditional upright sitting position, this is not a machine that's ideally suited for long motorway blasts. So let's get off and find the bike a more suitable environment. This is better slightly more suitable roads. And on these roads you can really feel what this bike's all about. The torque coming off roundabouts and out of corners really does work very well, as long as you're not in too much of a hurry of course. The brakes are responsive, and for a single disc setup it works reasonably well and is more than adequate for the power of the bike. In an urban environment like this, the bike feels small and light, even if it actually isn't all that small or even all that light. But that flexible engine and the very comfortable sitting position makes very light work of slow moving traffic. Out in the countryside the bike handles very nicely. The steering's a bit slow in a traditional way, but it's also very stable, and the suspension system does a great job considering it is a budget setup after all. And it's on these sort of A roads that the styling, comfortable position and relaxed engine really give the impression that you're on something from the 1950s, with the illusion only really being spoiled by this subdued exhaust note and the lack of clatter from the valve gear. I have to say, if I owned one, I would be sorely tempted to fit a louder pipe on this thing, just to really enhance that old world feel. Unfortunately, it's also on these faster roads where the bike's shortcomings are also somewhat exposed. The machine makes just 20 horsepower, and it really does feel like it. It may be flexible, but ultimately it does run out of puff when you really try to press on a bit. And if you really try to wring its neck, you do find some vibration at the top of the rev range. And this can leave you feeling a little bit guilty for being so cruel to the poor thing. But then this is really not what this bike was designed for. Ultimately, if you want to go faster, buy the 650. If you just want to plod along and take some corners in a nice swoopy way, this bike will serve you very nicely. But it's important to have reasonable expectations of a bike of this nature. It is only 20 horsepower after all, and you do have to bear that in mind if you're considering buying one of these bikes. If you're going to do a lot of motorway miles, it may not be the perfect choice. But that said, I don't want to seem like I'm being unduly harsh on the bike. It's a really nice bike, it's very comfortable, and you could chop up quite a few miles on this thing. Just don't do it on motorways. On the right road, this is a really enjoyable bike. And best of all, if you're like me, somebody that likes to do their own servicing and thus save themselves an awful lot of money, it's also a very simple bike. The single overhead cam unit is very easy to maintain. And I suspect that for quite a few potential owners of this machine, that may be something that's really important. But let's focus back on the road test. The classic sitting position with those feet quite far forward and that very comfortable seat mean that at modest speeds it really is a very comfortable place to be. And the switchgear all seems to work very nicely, and the general quality of the switchgear, in keeping with the rest of the bike, does seem pretty good. Royal Enfield have made great strides to improve build quality in the last few years, and it shows. The clutch is light and gives good feedback, and the front brake pretty good also. Even the mirrors do a really good job of showing you what's going on behind, and with the limited vibration that the engine produces, they never really get buzzed and blur out like they would have done on an original Classic. But the question is, of course, is the Classic Royal Enfield better or worse than the BSA Bantam? Well, I'd say that really depends on the sort of person you are and what you want from your smaller capacity bike. The BSA is undoubtedly a bit more sporty and a bit more raucous. The Royal Enfield, however, is smoother, feels a bit more refined, and definitely gives a much more classic motorcycle feel and experience. So if you want something that feels like a bike from the 1950s, but without all the bad points of course, then this is a really great choice. What other bikes or collections of bikes would you like to see us cover in a future video? Do let us know below. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course, thank you very much for watching.